The war for monetization between regular game and DLC is now over. Let's make some space for the new king. We need to speak about this. What's up, everybody? My name is Raccoon Squad, and this is a brand new series which is called Business Talks. Yes, I know. On my short side of things, there's a playlist which is called Business Talks, where I do some shorts that speak about gaming stuff related to business topics. And basically, this is going to be the same theme. The only difference, longer format video. It's been a while that I wanted to do this. I've pushed it, but now here we are. We're going to do it. So first off, if you're brand new to the channel, feel free to join the squad. Like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. If you're not new to the channel, welcome back. Happy to see you here. Feel free to jump in the comments, talk about it, ask questions, correct me if I'm wrong, all that good stuff. So first topic, microtransaction. How the hell did we get here? I don't understand what happened. It comes from, personally, I think it comes from a good place, and now all hell broke loose. I won't say that nobody likes it, because some people do, but the people who don't like microtransaction, oh, they hate it with all their freaking guts. And not gonna lie, I'm in both camps. Sometimes I like them, sometimes I don't like them. But what we need to understand first is, where did they come from? Where is the first instances we saw microtransactions? From what I found in my research, it was in a game called MapleStory. Yeah, I don't know if you know what MapleStory is, but MapleStory was a game that was on the web, and basically in this game you had what you call gachapon ticket. You might heard the word gachapon, so gacha, yes, there's now a new generation of game which are called gacha games, where we won't dive it right now because this can be a separate video all of to itself. But basically the gachapon ticket allowed people to buy a pack of something. I don't know what to call a pack. Basically, in gacha games in general, you can have crates, pack, box, name it however you want, but the same principle stays, which is you buy an amount of stuff which is going to be random generated inside a certain list of items which is predetermined. So for example, super rare stuff, I have lower odds, super common stuff, I have higher odds, normal stuff. And within these items that you get, basically they're random. So you can get rare stuff from the first draft or nothing for 25 packs. If you want a comparable, which everybody knows, they are Pokemon cards. So the same thing with the pack that you buy in the store, but they put it in digitally in video games and other kind of stuff. So that's it. But what are microtransactions? So it's quite simple. They are microtransactions. So they are small purchases in game which are usually optional. Well, they're supposed to be optional. If they are not, we have a problem, and we're going to discuss this a little later, because some thing happened recently, a controversy that was almost, let's discuss it later. And the goal of creating engagement with the game. So naturally companies want to have more people engaged. They want to have more bigger sort of revenue, because yeah, we're not gonna lie, at the end of the day, microtransaction is just a monetization way, just as subscription or just upfront cost when you buy the game. It's just a new way, and DLC in the past, it's just a new way to create revenue. Nothing special at all. So why is it now that everybody hates it, that everybody has a grudge against it? Well, let's dive in. So first, let's do a quick role play, but reverse it. Instead of being player, just imagine we are a big gaming company, okay? So just imagine we are the ones who puts microtransaction in our game and everything. So let's take it a step further. Building games. What comes with building games? Well, there's resources that we need to pay. There's hardware, real estate, marketing, a bunch of other services into the company that we need to pay for. If you have a big company, you probably have some merch. So you might understand that bills and costs stack up really quickly. Like, games are super expensive to do. The game development costs a lot of money. You might have heard of 100, 200, 300 million dollars, which can be true for AAA games and quadruple A games. So let's just say we created a new game that is called Final Fantasy VII Part 22, because yes, they're gonna get there at some point. I'm joking, but I really love this game, so technically I will be down for the ride. So yeah, I'm gonna use a word which basically is the word that I come up with. It's not an official word, but just for you to understand a bit quicker. Let's just say we call it unreleased amortization. So first off, let's talk about the part which is called unreleased. So the game that we're creating, which is called Final Fantasy VII Part 22, cost around $10 million to develop. During all these years of development, the costs are capitalized on the company balancing sheet and are not expensed immediately. What does this mean? It means that all the effort that the resources put into the game to create the game, the company see it as assets instead of pure costs, because they create value, which basically they create economical value for the company, because in the future they're going to create revenue. So beforehand, it will be technically $0, only seen as asset. It's more complicated than this, but bear with me just to paint out the picture for you guys. So how do company pay the bills for all these people and all these resources during the time of the development? The short answer is it depends, and once again we could do a separate whole video about how company handle this, but we're not going to talk about it now. So now that we understand the unreleased part, what about the amortization part? So basically, when we're speaking about amortization, what we do is that we take the cost and we spread it across the expected revenue generating lifespan. So the whole period where we think as a company that the game is going to create revenue, that's where we're going to amortize it. So let's just say we take back the example of Final Fantasy VII Part 22. We launch it. So we might have as goals, for example, if we keep the $10 million, so that the first month we're going to generate $6 million, second month $2 million, third month $500K, and so on. So at each of these period, what we expect is that we get more revenue than the cost that we're going to be amortized. As you might have just seen, this is a reverse exponential curve, because yes, technically the hype of the game, the marketing of the game is all combined to a precise point in time, which is the release. So that's why the first month we gotta have a big spike of amortization, which usually is half the game or maybe even more, and then it goes pretty quickly downhill until we expect zero from the revenue generating stream. And bear with me, this is just for simple games such as single player game. Just imagine God of War or Final Fantasy, like I just said, where you don't have necessarily a plan for monetization in the future, such as DLC, microtransaction, or other sort of revenue. So if every single month of the amortization you get more money than the cost that you amortize, you're basically profitable. So that's what the games are usually the companies are usually looking for, to say that they are profitable or not. So now you might understand that this puts a lot of pressure on companies, because they need to sell a lot of copy right out of the gate just to make sure that they make more money, they'll generate more revenue than the cost in the few months after release. And that's how basically you can say that they are profitable. If every single month they sell more than the cost that they amortize, usually they're going to be good, they're going to be green. So, but naturally, companies going to try to extend this lifespan of generating revenue to release a little bit of pressure. So how they can do this? Well, there's multiple ways, there's multiple solutions. Naturally, you can think about different type of monetization, DLC, monthly subscription, microtransaction, naturally, which are now everywhere. This is the main topic of the video. So there's a multiple way to do it. Naturally, there's going to be some that are going to be more popular than others. For example, monthly subscription. We can think about Final Fantasy 14 and WoW, which are technically, I think, still on this monetization strategy. But other than that, there's not too much the company that does it right now. But what I want to talk about is the DLC, because back in my days when I was younger, DLC were the thing we were always waiting for. Because for me as a small gamer, I love the game. For example, let's just say Witcher 3. I wasn't that young, but let's take Witcher 3. I played Witcher 3, insanely good game. When I heard there were more DLC which were big, I was so excited for them. So excited. But in the last few years, like the whole discussion and everything surrounding DLC changed completely. Most of the time, like gamers felt that the company were using DLC to basically cut the main game, cut features, cut stories, cut a bunch of stuff, and just put it back into what we call DLC at the end. So if you want to have the full experience, you would need to buy it. The whole narrative changed regarding DLC, which is pretty sad, because I feel like now company are scared to do it because they don't want to be seen like they just botched the main game. But at some point you need to understand something, that the price for games is capped at $79, for example. In Canadian, I think it's 59 in US dollars, which is capped. So naturally they'll try to create DLC, but let's not confuse stuff. Like, people might think that they try to indirectly have higher price for games by saying, okay, we're going to do 70% in the main game, we're going to sell for $59 US, and then we're going to put a $30 US on top. Trust me, there's no company that really thinks like this. There's no company that's going to say, I'm going to do half a game and then put the rest in the DLC. This is us from a gamer perspective, that's how we see stuff, and I'm gonna address it a little bit later. This is how we perceive the value of things we buy, but that's not how it goes really in the industry. And bear with me, this is not for all games. For example, Elder Ring is gonna come with a new DLC and everybody is pretty much excited. I crave for more Elder Ring content, so let's just say that this is not per se for the whole industry, but you know what I mean, you know the narrative surrounding it. So in the recent year, companies started to slack off on DLC and integrate more and more microtransaction, which at first was okay. Like it was just like regular new skin or new weapon or stuff like this that you could buy. But now it gets a little deeper. For example, the recent controversy from Dragon Dogma 2, well, gamers didn't like it pretty much. They basically hated it. I think that personally, Dragon Dogma 2 was a pretty good game, but it got destroyed in terms of reviews, and I know it's not that bad, but it got a bad reputation basically because of the microtransaction that were put in the game on release. And let's not forget, not too long ago, like microtransactions were mainly used for live service games, free-to-play games, but now they are everywhere. Like I just said, Dragon Ball 2 has them, and a lot of new player, single-player stuff like Assassin's Creed Valhalla and other games have like basically a microtransaction right into it. There is also some controversy regarding why does single player have microtransaction. Technically, you're the only one play with them. Why are they not just unlockable in the game? This is a whole new discussion that I would like to address at some point regarding when can a company decide to charge for stuff versus just put in the game. For me, it's a huge topic that we can address in another video. So let's just say that the bad reputation of the DLC opened the door quite widely for the microtransaction that were just waiting outside. They stepped right through it, so now microtransaction is part of everything. But don't get me wrong, there's other reason than only the fact that the DLC had a bad reputation that microtransactions are now so popular. And let's just say that there's psychological aspect to it that we need to talk about. So for example, people are more likely to spend by charging less. So in other words, someone is more likely to pay 5 times $10 than 1 time $50. And here's why. First off, psychological pricing. So smaller, more frequent payment feel less significant to someone who's buying something than a large sum upfront. Even though the cost might be the same, for example, like I just said, a $50 example, it's gonna feel heavier. Secondly, it's a way to reduce the risk because yes, when you buy something, you always make sure that it's worth your money. So by spending a little bit less more often, it's like gates. For us buyers, it's a way to reduce the risk from our perspective regarding what we're buying. And finally, there's budgeting. So yeah, smaller payments can be easier to fit in a budget naturally. Financing is not something new. There's financing for big stuff such as a house and cars, because with the freaking price of houses, who cannot finance them? And now there's also stores who does it. Best Buy, you can finance TV, you can finance couch, you can finance whatever you want. I'm not too sure if you could finance a single game because I think usually stores have a minimum amount that you need to buy so that they can unlock the financing options. It's an easier way for people to have smaller payments. So we spoke about a lot of topics regarding the point of view of the company, but what about the point of view of the players now? So first off, I want to address something which is called the perceived value. When we're doing a negotiation, a transaction, whatever, when we trade stuff, money or even object, we have what we call a perceived value as a seller and a perceived value as a buyer. So in this context, the buyer would be the gamer and the seller would be the company. So for example, let's say they create a skin. At the end of the day, they decide to put a $5 tag on it and say, that's how we're going to sell it. The thing is usually the price that they put on the skin and what the value that is seen by the gamers is completely different. And that's this gap that is pretty dangerous. The gap between these two perceived value, that's where it creates a lot of frustration, which at the end of the day, we're going to lead to disengagement from the community. So you need to find a way to approach this, and we're going to talk a little bit later, but this gap is super crucial. And another aspect of the point of view from the gamers is, as a gamer, I can speak freely about it. Sometimes I feel like I'm preyed on by companies. I feel like they wait me at every corner of my gaming experience to shove me with microtransactions that I don't need, or they try to make me feel like I need them, and I need to always combat my own self to convince me to not buy stuff that seems super cool. Let's be honest, there are several ways they can do it. I can think of, let's just say, a game which try to sell you skin. The nicest skins are always going to be behind a paywall. let's just say a battle pass or directly a cost that you need to pay upfront or in their whatever currency that they have in the game. A major example I can give, which is NBA 2K. I'm a fan of NBA in general. I love 2K. I played NBA when EA had the licenses on it. So yeah, it's been a while. And right now, one of my favorite type of content regarding 2K is the My Team, where you can buy packs, gacha stuff, like I explained earlier. And god damn, like I played so many hours in this game and I still don't have any good stuff because everything is blocked behind a freaking paywall, and most of the odds are in these packs are trash. I think I've opened more than 250, 300 packs. I don't know how many I've opened it, and the amount of good stuff that I gain from it is negligible. And yes, I don't have like all the time in the world to invest in it, but still I put quite an amount of time, and I don't have a super OP team. So at some point we need, as gamers, to have a good experience. We're here to play games. We're not here to buy stuff. We're not in a store. We are in a video game. We want to play. We want to have an experience. We want to feel emotion, and that's what company need to understand. So now, let's just talk about solution. How can we address? So first off, you need to understand something. Microtransactions have benefits. Like earlier, I've talked about why they became popular, because they have a lot of advantage for people. But other than that, it's a good way for company to make money. We're not gonna lie, it's a pretty good way to reduce the curve, like we discussed earlier, for people who want to engage more with the company, who wants to encourage them more. It's a super good way to do it. And on the other hand, for players who doesn't have the big bucks to put on a $50 DLC, I think it's nice that people now have this opportunity to buy with a smaller budget and still have more of the game they love and encourage the company that they love. This is super cool. But we need to fix this old problem again with microtransactions. And how we're gonna do it? First thing we need to address is the gap between the perceived value. I feel like company needs to investigate more how the users and the gamers perceive value, and on what they perceive more value than others. To be honest, $10 on the skin, there is no way people should pay that much. There's no way. So we really need to bridge this gap. Company needs to do research about their users and understand where they perceive value and adjust their price regarding the result they're going to get. Something else that company can take action on is try to remove as much as possible the pay to win aspect in microtransaction. Now I understand that gacha games are basically based on this concept of pay to win, so I'll give them a pass because that's the whole shtick. If you decide to go into these type of games, well, you need to understand that's where all the monetization is based on. So I'll give a pass to them. But other than this, in normal game, there should not be in any circumstances a way to pay to win. This is just the opposite to what technically a company should want to make their player feel. Because me as a company, a player who's free to play, who puts 100 of hours, is more valuable, way more valuable than a player that we call whales that just come, plays, I don't know, half, not even half, 1/10 of the free-to-player play I just talked about. But since they had a lot of money, they destroy everybody. Personally, I feel that this is super wrong. Now, in single-player games, I feel like if you want to put a way for player to progress more rapidly, XP gain or whatever the way to do it, I'm comfortable with it. I feel like it's not a bad solution. And lastly, I would say, try to understand your player. Just for freak's sake, just speak with us. Just sit down, have a normal conversation. I did a short about it. I'll put it in the description that talks about listening to player versus understanding player. I feel a company listen to players and try to recreate it. Sometimes they do, but you need to go a step further, man. You need to understand what the players want, what drives them into the game, what would make them happy, and don't get me wrong, some company does. Helldivers 2, live service game, do you see how people likes it? It's so funny because the whole democracy thing into the games, but basically that's it. So I feel like if we can tackle these three, bridging the gap between the perceived value, reducing the pay to win aspect, and try to understand the player, I feel like microtransaction could revive from this current state, which is basically people hates it, and being something good that can benefit the community, benefit the game industry, because yes, you can see right now the game industry needs a solution. We're not going the right direction. Company closed. Microsoft just shut down a bunch of studios at Bethesda. It's not going pretty well. We need a way to do it. And I think, honestly, microtransaction and a bunch of other stuff, don't get me wrong, microtransaction are gonna solve the problem for everybody. For example, in single player game, they probably won't. But it could be a way to save the games that we love, but we just need to do it in the right way. So that's it. It's been your boy Raccoon Squad. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe if you like this type of content, because I plan to deliver way more business talks in the upcoming future. Like always, don't forget to play game, stay young, have fun. See you.